There are a lot of great defenders in baseball that are making highlight plays left and right. Guys like Dansby Swanson, Kevin Kiermaier, Francisco Lindor. And then there's Austin Hedges, who's made his entire career out of nothing but his defense. Hedges caught 567 innings last year between Pittsburgh and Texas, and out of 38 catchers with over 500 innings, his .989 fielding percentage ranked 32nd, and he had 7 errors, 4 fielding and 3 throwing, which tied for 22nd. So according to that, he wasn't that great of a fielder, and according to Baseball Savant, out of 63 qualified catchers, he ranked 28th by throwing out only 19% of base stealers, and he was 35th in pop time at 197. So he can't field, and he can't really throw guys out. So what can he do? Well, there's a lot that goes into catching. Yes, there's throwing guys out when they try to steal, but on average, that happens less than once a game for each team. Keibert Ruiz had the most attempts against him with 140 in 117 games last year. So it's not like you're trying to throw guys out left and right or really even every other inning. And then there's blocking pitches, but you only really have to do this when there's guys on base and you don't want to let him advance, or there's 2 strikes and you don't want the batter to wind up on first on a past third strike. And Hedges has only allowed 19 pass balls in over 5,200 innings in his career so far, second behind Buster Posey during that time, so I'd say he's been pretty good about that. So yes, these are big parts of playing catcher, and when you stop a stolen base or keep runners from advancing, it goes a long ways towards preventing a run. But there's 2 skills that are way more valuable for a catcher to have because they happen on every single pitch and they impact the other team's offense way more. Framing and pitch calling. Framing is the art of lying to umpires and stealing strikes. It's about catching each pitch in a way that makes it look better than it was so that you can turn some of these balls out of the strike zone into called strikes. And this is where Hedges is an absolute game changer. This year he was second in framing runs with 16.9 according to Fangraphs, half a run behind Patrick Bailey, and his framing saved 13 runs according to Baseball Savant, 3 less than Bailey, who only did this in like 200 more innings and about 500 more pitches than Hedges. And this is where catchers make the biggest difference defensively. And it's why guys like Elias Diaz, Wilson Contreras, and Shea Langoliers were below average defenders this year, despite being pretty good at preventing stolen bases. Plus, if you're really good at throwing guys out, they just won't run as much. When Yadier Molina was with the Cardinals from 2004 to 2022, they only had 1,451 stolen base attempts against them, the lowest in baseball, and Arizona in second gave up almost as many stolen bases with nearly 600 more attempts against them. Now, this is obviously a good thing. If guys aren't willing to run, they can't steal the base, so you're preventing stolen bases with just your reputation alone, which is pretty baller. But we're still talking about that difference of 600 attempts over 19 seasons. I'm not the best at math, but that's not a lot. But until we get the new automated strike zone, there's nothing you can do to prevent framing. And it's why even though Hedges was average at best at nailing base runners, he was still one of the best defenders in baseball this year with about half as many innings as a lot of guys. Hedges was worth 20.7 runs with his defense according to Fangraphs, which put him 6th, and he had a fielding run value of 15 according to Baseball Savant, which tied him at 3rd with Dansby Swanson. And he did this in about 200 to 500 innings less than anyone above him. Per inning, Hedges was arguably the most valuable defender in baseball last year. But all he's doing is stealing a strike here and there. It can't make that big of a difference, right?
Wrong.
This is why pitch selection and working the count is so important. At the highest levels, every little advantage that you can get could be the difference between success and failure in a game where you're gonna fail a lot. And the difference that one pitch can make is staggering. A catcher being able to swing one pitch from a ball to a strike can knock off over 400 points of OPS, more than double your chances of striking out, and drop a hitter's WRC plus so drastically, it's like taking Aaron Judge on his way to breaking the AL home run record out of your lineup and swapping in Miles Straw from this year. That's the power that framing has, and how it can drastically change things for any hitter in any count by turning what should be a ball into a strike, let alone ending an at-bat on a pitch out of the zone, keeping a guy at the plate that should have just walked, or even better, you get a called strike 3 when it should have been ball 4. Yeah, hitters are really happy when that happens. And that's the toughest part about this as a hitter is what are you supposed to do about it? Because you just did exactly what you're supposed to, and you got punished for it. God, it's like a flashback to my childhood. The pitch was out of the zone. It should be a ball, and as a hitter, your best move is to let that go. According to Baseball Savant, hitters only made contact on pitches out of the zone about 56% of the time this year, versus about 82% on pitches in the zone. Those pitches are harder just to get to, and even if you do put it in play, odds are it's not like it's gonna work out very well for you. So you lay off a pitch out of the zone and it gets called a strike, putting you in a worse count and making the at-bat way tougher, or you swing at it and probably end up with it as a strike anyways, or you put something in play that'll probably get you out. Do you see the no-win situation that you're in as a hitter with a guy like Austin Hedges behind the plate? And this is just one of the ways that he impacts a game defensively, because not only does his framing change at-bats in his team's favor, making your pitchers and defenses' lives easier, but he knows how to manage a pitching staff. The biggest part about being your team's catcher, is doing your homework and knowing what pitch to call in what location when. And that means knowing everything about your pitchers and the hitters that you're facing. You want to make the most of what your pitchers do well. So if you have a sinker baller, having him pound the bottom of the zone, or a guy with good vertical movement on his four-seamer attacking the top of the zone, or figuring out how to set up a guy's nasty breaking ball or off speed so that hitters aren't sitting on it. But on top of this, you also need to know the hitter's weaknesses and how to attack him, as well as his strengths so that you can stay away from them, and how you're gonna have each pitcher use their strengths to attack the hitter in the best way possible. Then you have to think about all of this when you set your game plan with your pitcher, because what do you do if you have a sinker baller and a great low ball hitter, or your pitcher has a great slider, but the other team's lineup loves to sit on breaking balls? It's balancing all of this together, the pitchers and hitters' strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and putting it all into a plan of action so that at any point in a game, you know exactly what pitch to call to give your pitcher and your team the best chance at winning.
We're dealing with a lot of shit.
Now, it's pretty difficult at this point to measure the exact value that a catcher gives their team with their pitch calling, but even going all the way back to when Hedges was with the Padres at the beginning of his career, he's gotten nothing but praise for his pitch calling and how he game plans with his pitchers. James Clark of East Village Times wrote about Hedges at the time. His ability to control a game and call pitches behind the dish are invaluable for a team, and that's because Hedges himself stressed how much of a priority this is for him, saying, "The first part of my day starts with watching video, preparing for the opposing hitters, and formulating a game plan." Even this season, 43-year-old Rich Hill, who's played 19 seasons with 13 different teams, he's seen a few things. He was asked about Hedges by Kevin Gorman of Trib Live, and Hill said, "He's the anchor of the pitching staff. His understanding of how to manage a pitching staff, how to go about leading guys through a lineup the correct way is indispensable." Hedges absolutely changes games with his defense. According to Fangraphs, over his 9-year career, he's been worth 86 defensive runs saved, 6th in baseball out of all defenders with at least 5,000 innings. And overall, his defense has been worth 126.6 runs, which ranks 3rd. He's been one of, if not the best defender in baseball throughout his career. And if nothing I've said up to this point convinces you of that, maybe this will. He's managed to play this long solely on his defense because he's been literally the worst hitter in baseball, and it's not even close. Out of 266 hitters that have had at least 2,000 plate appearances since 2015, Hedges has the worst batting average, on-base percentage, OPS, and WRC plus in baseball. Teams know that he's not going to give you anything at the plate. But they're okay with that because of how good his defense is. And not only does he have a 1-year deal to play with Cleveland again this year, the 10th season of his career, but just this last year, a competing team like the Rangers, who would only go on to win the World Series, what do they know? They could see the value that this guy brings to a team and went out and made a trade to go get him. Hedges makes an impact every at-bat and even every pitch when he's behind the plate. That kind of value can't be overlooked, and teams across Major League Baseball can see the value that he brings to an organization with his defense and with his mind. Defense tends to get overlooked at times, but in baseball, the name of the game is runs, and a guy like Austin Hedges prevents a ton of runs in some not so obvious ways. It's really easy to look at what he can't do with the bat, but instead we should value what he can do to help his team win. And what he can do, he does better than almost anyone else in baseball. These kind of players that are well below average hitters but give you top tier defense at the toughest defensive positions, I don't necessarily see them as everyday players, but they definitely have a spot on good teams and can provide a lot of value with the skills that they do have. But that's my opinion on it. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about these defensive specialists and how valuable you think they are to a winning team. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and if there's a topic you want to see covered, let me know. And thank you for supporting the channel. For more baseball content like this, go ahead and check out the video that's on your screen now. Thanks again for watching. Have an awesome day. Later.